This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Hello and welcome to the Sunday Lunch Show on Teachers Talk Radio. The topic of today's show is classroom management and technology. My guest is the Argentinian teacher Maria de los Angeles Suarez.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Sunday Lunch Show, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I'm Graham Stanley, speaking to you live from Mexico City. Today's show is the second in a series of shows about classroom management. And my guest is Maria de los Angeles Suarez. And we'll be talking about classroom management and technology in particular, among other things. Now, Maria is an English and ICT teacher from Buenos Aires in Argentina. She has been teaching English as a foreign language at primary and secondary school for 20 years and has a degree in educational technology. As she became more familiar with EdTech, she became a Microsoft Innovative Educator Expert in 2015 and a Skype Master Teacher in 2017. Her project Around the World in a Sway, Tales of Skype and Classroom Adventures was one of the projects selected by Microsoft Argentina to represent the country in an exchange. Maria considers herself a lifelong learner with a passion for technology applied to English language teaching. Her main passion is using ICT in the classroom to enhance learning opportunities and being able to inspire others to embrace technology. And I will be talking to Maria about using technology to help classroom management and more after the Teachers Talk Radio news.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
Schools Week reports that the government has abandoned a plan to abolish a rule capping the proportion of pupils oversubscribed free schools can select on faith at 50%. The previous Conservative government consulted last year and also included a plan to remove the block on new faith special schools. However, in an update from the Department for Education, the government has said it will not be moving forward with these proposals at this time. The statement also says they received 3,668 consultation responses and that 66% of respondents disagreed or strongly disagreed with both proposals. The cap had particularly hindered plans to open Catholic free schools because canon law prevents them from turning away pupils on the basis of their Catholic faith. The government's bill, if passed, would remove the presumptions that new schools must be academies. The Department for Education said this meant faith groups will be able to put forward proposals in response to an invitation from the local authority. The director of the Catholic Education Service welcomed the changes to the bill. The BBC covered the latest research findings around pupils and mobile phones, leading with this headline on its news website: "Mobile ban in schools not improving grades or behaviour, study suggests." The first study in the world to look at school phone rules alongside measures of pupil health and education was undertaken by the University of Birmingham, was peer-reviewed, and its findings published in The Lancet. It compared 1,227 students and their 30 different schools' rules about smartphone use. The paper says schools restricting smartphone use did not seem to be seeing their intended improvements on health, well-being and focus in lessons. However, the research did find a link between more time on phones and social media and worse mental well-being and mental health. Less physical activity, poorer sleep, lower grades, and more disruptive classroom behaviour. Full details of the report and the study and the responses from a range of schools, pupils, and the Department for Education can be found on the BBC News website. The BBC in Scotland also reports on education news as it covers a story about data from a controversial survey which asked school pupils about their sexual experiences had been advertised for use by external researchers without participants' explicit consent. The Scottish Government Health and Wellbeing Census hit headlines in 2021 after asking highly personal questions of children as young as 14. Parents said they were not told the nature of the questions and were not asked to agree that their child's information could be shared. In the end, one half of Scotland's 32 councils pulled out of the survey, but 16 councils did go ahead. The survey was completed online, and the survey form said that information would not be shared with your teacher or your family. However, the data is now being offered publicly to external researchers via a website for a charity created by the Scottish Government in 2021, with a stated aim of making it easier to access data around health and well-being. According to the BBC report, the Information Commissioner's Office warned the Scottish Government in 2023 that the way they had gathered, stored and transferred the data created potential risks that children could be identified by third parties. A Scottish Government spokesperson said, all participants in the survey had the opportunity to skip questions they did not wish to answer. Parents have said that when they found out their children had taken part in the survey and understood the questions they'd been asked, including about penetrative sex and contraception use, they'd asked for their child's data to be scrubbed. They were told that this would not be possible. Additional detail and response from academics, schools and parents can be found on the BBC Scotland website. In Northern Ireland, media outlets have reported on criticism for Queen's University Belfast after its decision to open a campus in India was announced. This announcement comes after it said there would be 270 job cuts in Northern Ireland. The University and College Union, which represents many lecturers and support staff, described the move as scandalous. At the time the job cuts were announced, BBC News Northern Ireland said it had seen documents which suggested Queen's was facing a deficit of more than £11 million. UCU General Secretary Joe Grady said, "It is scandalous that QUB is putting massive amounts of money into a new campus halfway around the world, all the while axing jobs in Belfast." Speaking on Good Morning Ulster, another UCU representative said the university had not provided a justified business case. QUB defended its decision to open the campus in India, saying, "We need to balance our income." Finally, Schools Week reports that Education Mutual, who provide insurance cover for thousands of schools, will now cover legal costs for staff who want to sue social media trolls. It comes after Bridget Phillipson said she was concerned about the rise in parental complaints and staff time they take up. Education Mutual will start to cover all its member schools' legal fees should they want to challenge a troll for libelling staff online, including sending cease and desist letters to people who post libel. Some unions already offer this type of support, but not all. Further details can be found on the Schools Week website. This has been Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm very happy to have with me Maria de Los Angeles Suarez. How are you, Maria?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. I'm glad for this invitation. I'm very happy to be with you today.
Thank you very much for accepting to talk. It's great to meet you and to talk about the subject. And Maria, I'd like to start by asking you about what led you into the world of education. Did you always want to be a teacher?
I guess I always wanted, because I'm one of those teachers, the ones that grew up aspiring to teach. Because when I was in high school, I started teaching, coaching my friends who were falling behind with their subjects at the end of the year. So whenever I finished with my subjects and everything was okay, and I didn't have to attend school anymore, but my friends were struggling with some topics, subjects, etc. I used to go to their houses and spend an afternoon, a morning, helping them to tackle those difficulties. And that's how I started with the different subjects from high school my friends were having difficulties with. And well, then I realized that that was what I wanted to do, because I felt nice teaching, and I felt I could help. I was giving people a hand, and also uh, the love for the language, the English language, because I'm a Spanish speaker. I'm a native Spanish speaker from Argentina, and I was always paying attention to movies, looking for movies that were in English, trying to get movies with subtitles to learn more, trying to write down songs, because I'm 44 years old, and in my days, we listened to music from a cassette, and if we wanted lyrics, we had to sit down, started to write down lyrics, stop in the music, and that's how I started developing a love for the English language, American movies, British movies. So that's how I started. So that's how I started loving teaching and the English language.
Was it clear to you from the start that you wanted to teach English, or were you thinking about other subjects before you decided on teaching English?
No, I loved English. I loved the language. There was a world behind it that I wanted to discover, that I wanted to get into the culture. I always fell in love with that, and I wanted to learn more about that. The language was the key, the bridge to get to that culture, to understand more. And also, in my country, English is very important. We all know that to be part of the global society, we need to learn it. We need to, and that was my interest. I knew it was important, but I loved movies. I loved music. The truth is that I love English song more than songs in my language. I can't help it, but I like it, and that's how I developed the love for the language.
And what about ages? Do you have a particular age group you like to teach, or do you teach across different ages?
I started to feel more comfortable with primary school students, ages from 8 to 13 years old. Perhaps that's where I started to end up in primary school. I have experience in high school. I have experience at the teacher training college, but landed in primary school, and I really enjoy it. And also, as I have my kids, my son, my daughters, and I get acquainted with their interests and topics of conversation. I also discovered that those topics and that knowledge helps me a lot to get on with my students, to have more to talk about, to go into their interest a little bit deeper, because sometimes it is difficult to understand what kids are doing and what kids like nowadays.
And what is it about that age group that you like? Is it because they're still motivated to learn the language? Is it something else?
Well, one thing is that they learn the language in a natural way, in a bilingual setting, and they are not scared of making mistakes there. It's quite a natural process. And also perhaps they are more naive, they enjoy new activities, they are more creative. I like the age a lot, and I enjoy teaching them. I don't know why, but that's the group I'm working with nowadays, and I truly enjoy them. And also that I have discovered that having my own kids gave me more tools to connect with them, with their interests, and what they truly like and what they truly do also after school. Okay.
And what about educational technology. When, as a teacher, did you start becoming interested in introducing technology into the classroom?
The truth is that when I was at the teacher training college, we had a subject related to technology, and it was before the year 2000, and we were involved in creating PowerPoints and other different resources which were not related to technology. And as soon as I was introduced with PowerPoint and technologies, I started creating all my projects with computer. And as I was teaching, the thing is that I got into technology because of motivation. I was motivated by using computers. They gave a different way to connect with the language and also to motivate students. And I started using games, songs, videos in my classes in order to provide opportunities to motivate students and to show them that the language doesn't end with the class, okay, which that the learning continues. And I think that most of my students enjoy that. They continue learning after school with music, with games, with movies, with lots of things that we have nowadays. But the true thing that I started taking a computer to the class, a PowerPoint, a game, trying to get a projector to increase motivation. And I realized that it was truly increased. In the first day, I took my computer, somebody at school brought a projector, and I was pretending that the screen was interactive, and the students who were they were small, they were choosing different alternatives in the games. Then some time later, I started taking a tablet with stories, and at the end of every class, I would connect my tablet to the school computer, and I will project the details, and I will stop to ask for feedback, to ask for ideas, and it was very simple. I was looking to engage my students. I was trying to motivate them more and to show them that learning goes beyond the classroom, and nowadays it's everywhere where technology is. They can learn on the go with Spotify, with YouTube, with everything. But I guess it's very important to engage them from the beginning, to show them how computers can be positive and teach them whatever they need. And also they can find lots of things that will help them.
And do you find you are joined by lots of your colleagues when it comes to using technology, or are most of your colleagues, the other teachers, not that interested?
Nowadays, most people are using technologies to motivate students, to introduce content, to carry out projects in collaboration with the whole class. Nowadays, yes, 20 years ago, I was like the crazy exception. Yes, trying to take to the class whatever I had in order to create an atmosphere with technology and to motivate and perhaps to do something funny at the end of the class in the last 10 minutes and to engage them perhaps in a time of the day where they are not so willing to pay attention, they are tired, and that's the truth. Nowadays, 95% of teachers are using technology in different ways here in Argentina, and they make an effort, they continue learning. But 20 years ago, that was an exception. And of course, we didn't have the resources at school. We had to think about what we have and how to connect it. And that was quite difficult.
Talking about resources, you spoke about bringing a computer into the classroom, managing to get hold of a projector, and then bringing a tablet in. Were those all things that you did on your own, or does the school now that you work at have access to technology, projectors in the classroom, a computer, etc.?
In the past, I had to do everything by myself. Nowadays, not anymore likely. Luckily, we have everything at school. We have computers that are connected to the internet. We have different platforms to work with, and the projector in every classroom, the the um, the loudspeakers. Now it's the common rule to have everything in a class. It seems like a class is not a classroom without a projector, a computer that works, and the loudspeakers, but it was not the case 20 or 10 years ago, where you had to get ideas and try to be resourceful and find whatever you had. It's like a path we have been going through, and schools have worked hard in order to achieve all those things that were needed, all those devices needed in order to bring better experiences to the classrooms.
What about technology that students have? Do your students have access to mobile phones, for
Yeah,
example, or is that something that the school doesn't allow?
at school, they are not, in primary school, they are not allowed to carry their cell phones. Yes, because the focus is on connected personally. And if not, they will spend all breaks behind the phones, not in primary school. When they pass on to high school and they are older than 13 years old, they are allowed to take the cell phones with some restrictions, of course, and rules of behavior.
And do the teachers who teach those levels use the mobile phones with the students in class, or do they tend not to use it for education?
No, they tend to use the mobiles for education with games, or sometimes to look for resources. My older kids are in high school and they use them a lot, and the school provides Wi-Fi for them to investigate, and they carry out games at the end of the classes. We use them a lot. Yes.
Okay. And moving on now to educational technology and classroom management,
Yes.
how do you think technology can help teachers with classroom management, or maybe a better question would be, how can teachers manage technology in the classroom? Either of those.
We all agree that technology is a powerful tool for improving everything in the classroom, and it can help the class to be more efficient, more engaging, and support the teachers and the students. For instance, we can think of classroom communication tools in which, for instance, a platform, I can think of Google Classroom, that most people know, can connect students behind the classroom when they are home with their homework, or with the perhaps teachers post what they have done in class, and some students decide to see those activities again. Children may ask questions through this communication platform. Parents can also get engaged and have a look at what students are doing in their class. I think that one of those big categories within classroom management is classroom communication, um, having a concrete platform to connect teachers, other members of the school communities, and families and students is the first thing you need to have in order to have a classroom that communicates, that is updated with news and newsletters. That's the most important thing. Then we have other categories of tools that we can use in order to improve our classes. For instance, we can think of collaboration tools. Nowadays, we're working a lot with Canva in order to create a final project in which 20 or 25 students are working at the same time on a presentation. Each of them is working on different pages, on different areas, and that tool provides us with a platform that allows us to develop a lot of soft skills. Okay, collaboration, communication, at the same time respecting others. Lots of things come at play when children are working in collaboration in the same presentation, the same document. And the only way to have those experiences is through technology, through having a tool like Canva, like Google Slides, and well, those are opportunities that are given and we appreciate a lot. And they are part also of real life, because people who work today work with people from different parts of the world through platforms. They communicate, and it's important to replicate those real life situations that we have these days in the classroom. Or because one day students will attend university, will go out to work, and they need to be acquainted with those experiences. So far I have been mentioning classroom communication tools and tools that provide us with room for students to collaborate together. We don't have to forget about assessment, because keeping track of what students do online is quite important. For instance, sometimes I have been working with flipped classroom approaches, in which the main idea of a flipped classroom approach is to give students tasks that are not very difficult to carry out at home. For instance, introducing a topic with a video, and students do that at home, but it's important to have a tool that um, help teachers to keep track of those activities, of if a student are watching the video, if they are understanding. And one tool, for instance, that I use a lot in that scenario is Edpuzzle, because Edpuzzle is a tool that allows me to give students a video with some questions I create, and then they can answer those questions. I can keep track if they are finishing the video or not, if they are answering the questions properly. So when the time for the class comes, I know that most students have watched the videos, and I can continue with my flipped classroom approach in that way. It's a way to to track what the process that students are doing in class. Also, of course, if we keep on thinking about assessment and feedback, Google Forms, it's very important, because whatever was on paper a long time ago, nowadays you can turn it into a Google form, and in that way you can keep track of what students do, how it's some sort of formal assessment that is useful, of course, and also quizzes if I want to, or Kahoot, if I want to engage my students into a more friendly gaming class in which they get motivated, they want to play, they want to improve. Whenever we play games with a Kahoot, with quizzes, I tell them that the most important part is that they focus on the corrections, on the mistakes, that mistakes are good, that mistakes provide learning opportunities, because the role of a mistake was seen like, oh my God, that's terrible. And they tend to be sad because of the mistake. And it's not a moment to be sad, it's a moment to pay attention, and it's a learning opportunity. And I think that technology tools give us room to develop the truth that a mistake is a learning opportunity and not something negative.
Wow, that's a lot of things you've mentioned there, Maria. I'd like to explore a little bit more about some of those. You said it's important, or the first step when it comes to managing the classroom with technology is to use a platform that connects perhaps other teachers together, the students together, and the parents. What kind of communication do you have with parents? What kind of things do you share with parents using this type of platform?
Of course, parents can see everything that students are working with, all the material that is being used in classrooms, such as video games, presentations, and also it's very important showing parents what is taking place in the classroom. If students have learned a song, if the students have created a project on paper, taking pictures. It's very important, and it's a great tool in order to keep families informed, to show them everything that's taking place. Because the truth is that in primary school, a lot goes on beyond copybook, and technology um, is what give us the opportunity to be reporters of our own activities, of everything that is nice and is taking place in the classroom. I think that's the point, sending pictures about something that we have done, sending videos with a song, with some ideas they have presented, or a presentation that they created in collaboration. It's sharing the good news to families, and within the platform of that class, that's a good opportunity. Of course, it's very important to ask for permission to families to clarify what you're going to send, in which context. For instance, if you're sending pictures or videos, and those are only going to be shared within the members of that class community, within families of that class and students of that class, because nowadays it's also common that, for instance, in my country, schools have like an Instagram account, and they also share all the things that are taking uh, place in at schools. But of course, that is done by a community manager and with all the permissions that need to be asked. But I think from the point of view of a teacher, it's very important to get families informed of what is going on every day.
Yes, definitely. That sounds great. And do you think this type of platform means that you have a lot more contact with parents, for example, than you would have done in the past?
I think the communication gets faster if something happens. If you need something, you can send a mail, and they respond in a faster way, because a long time ago we used a copybook, and you had to wait until the following day to get some feedback on the copybook. Perhaps the student forgot to share the news with the family, and there was no feedback. And I think that this provides a faster way to communicate, and it's an environment that most people are immersed in. Everybody has cell phone, everybody gets a link and can open what has been done. I think that it has improved communication, and it gives parents, perhaps people who don't have a lot of time to go through books and copybooks, an opportunity to see what's going on in the class in a fast way, on the go. Okay, I think it's important, and it has improved communication a lot.
And you mentioned, for example, the flipped classroom approach, which is becoming a lot more popular, I think, in recent years. This idea of giving students something to do related to the lesson before they come to class, rather than the traditional homework of doing something to practice what they've done in class. How do your students take to that? Do they need a lot of encouragement in order to do the tasks that you set before they come to class, or are they used to it now?
They start getting used to carrying out those activities, watching the videos, or investigating a little bit more on the matter. But sometimes it's hard to get the 100% of the class. That's the truth. But most of them get acquainted with the format, and they are willing to explore something beforehand. And also, they tend to connect those videos, those ideas we share, with their previous knowledge. Perhaps they have in the native language, and it's interesting how they start connecting um, knowledge they had in the first language with new topics that approach in the English class. And that helps a lot. And I think that in order to carry out a flipped classroom approach, what we need is technology, we need to be connected, and we need to keep track of those activities that are taking place at home.
And what about the students who you said it's hard to get 100% of the students to do it? What about the students who come to class and they haven't done what you asked them to do?
Well,
What do you do there in that case?
well, sometimes we rewatched, and in that way, they see what the others are talking about, and they, of course, they will understand what's going on. Of course, it's not the same way the participation that takes place from a boy who is engaged, who has watched the video perhaps several times, and it's informed on the matter and knows what he's talking about, to the one that didn't open it at home and has no idea. Of course, it's a different, but with time, what I have discovered is that the level in the language, the level of understanding of the world improves a lot in those students that sit at home for a while and connect with everything that is on a platform. Because it's funny, because as time goes by, I even see my students going back to classes from 2 years ago because they remember activities that have been relevant, meaningful to them, and they remember the topics, the activities, and they go back to the different classes they have in Google Classroom, go back to second form when they're in fourth, looking for activities we have done long time ago, and it's interesting. And that's something that can only be done with technology, because as nowadays they have track of everything they have done in primary. Perhaps they are looking for a game they played 2 years ago, and they go there and I looked for it. That's an amazing skill. That's uh, knowing technology, knowing how to go through a platform, try finding something that is not there, going to archived sessions, and they do that, and they tend to look for what has been truly meaningful for them.
Wow, that's amazing. And one of the other things you said before was this idea of encouraging the students to collaborate together, to prepare a presentation, etc. I'd love to hear more about how you go about setting up that activity and encouraging the students to participate, and how you keep track of which students are participating, etc.
A great question. Well, first of all, we have a topic. For instance, we have been working with fake news and different subtopics that come out with it, and different ideas. We tend to divide the topics that each student is going to be working with. In order to be truly organized, I try to assign for instance, each person has to work on 2 different pages, and they have to remember the page they have to work with. And then, of course, I'm there in the class with them, and I keep track to what they do, and I can also keep track to what they do on my computer. And of course, lots of issues come out because somebody's working on somebody else's page, or somebody modifies the format of the whole presentation. But those are problems that show us how to be better with others, how to collaborate, and starting from the problems, we can solve them and improve it as human beings. And everything starts getting better as time goes by, and they understand more the format. They have lots of issues, but and also respecting others, they're respecting other people's places, but then they start understanding, and in the end the presentation is magnificent. Okay, but we have to tackle many problems in the way because they're kids. Okay, and somebody may feel offended because somebody has been working on his page, but I think that those tools give us opportunity to develop lots of soft skills that are needed. Okay, or stand others, to place yourself in somebody else's shoes. Okay, nice opportunity, and something that takes place in real life, because whenever they will also do it in high school, and if they go to university or they go to work, that's common practice nowadays, that you are in a document and you have to collaborate with people from different parts of the world.
Yes, definitely. That sounds good. So you tend to do this with students in the classroom. So they're
Yes.
working on their own computers. Do they have laptops? Do they
No,
is it a computer room?
it's a computer room, and we have desktop computers. Yes, and they all work together there, and different situations come up, and we work together to solve them and to be better and to respect others.
And one of the things you mentioned, which I thought was quite interesting, was this idea of working recently. You said you've been working recently on fake news. Could you tell us a little bit more about that activity? What was it that made you decide that fake news was something that the students needed to be working on?
First of all, it's something that they are exposed every single day, that you hear they talk about, also with scientific knowledge, that lots of things come up in social media which are not true, and they need to understand that they need to be critical about many things that they hear, that they don't sound possible. They need to be critical, they need to look for sources, they need to investigate more on the matter in order to come up with a conclusion, to truly know if something is true or not. I think that nowadays, with everything we are exposed online, it's very important to teach students how to be critical, to give them tools on how to investigate other pages, other sources, in order to find out if something is true or not. Also with scientific knowledge, of course, because lots of things appeared online and those things appear as a general truth, and in fact they are not. So the students need to have the knowledge, to have tools, and to be critical. Okay, this cannot be true. Stop, let's go back. Where can we check? We can go to a famous newspaper page. We can go to different sources where we can find out if this is real or not.
So how do you approach that, Maria? Do you start by showing them something that is false, for example? How did you approach it?
Sometimes we start by going into topics which are controversial, which don't seem to be real, and to ask them for opinions. And yes, that's how we start, and we ask them to investigate a little more, to be critical, to not to finish everything in what they see, trying to develop critical thinking and develop tools in which students can use technology, trying to find out more about that, trying to look for serious web pages that can provide real knowledge on the matter.
And how do the students react? Do you have students that already are quite critical? Have they been exposed to false
No, they are
fake
not
news?
critical.
The
They
opposite.
believe everything they see online. That's why it needs to be developed. Yes, they need to understand, to be critical, to doubt, to have questions, to investigate more, and to get all those things with a pinch of salt in order to find out more. Yes, I think that's
Yeah.
important, because long time ago, everything that was true came from books, and books were edited and were checked before published. But nowadays, lots of people publish or upload whatever they want, and I feel it's very important for kids to be critical and to understand that they cannot be sure about anything they see online. They need to get it with a pinch of salt and keep on investigating.
Of course. To go back to using a computer room with students,
Yeah.
is this a room that is shared in the school that you book and take the students
Yes.
to from time to time?
No, we have a timetable where they come to classes once a week to work on, because I worked hand in hand with the classroom teacher, with the English classroom teacher,
Right.
and they come to my class once a week, and we have a set table, and we worked on projects together. We worked on different themes together with the other teachers.
Right. And how do you approach the management of that computer room when you have a group of students coming in, I'm sure that they are used to it now because they have been going to that room and using the computers for a while. But the first time, for example, when the students are going into a computer room, how do you kind of make sure they behave, that they are on
Or
task, etc.?
well, that happens when they are in third form. They come for the first time. They don't know anything. They tend to go to the pages they got at home. They open YouTube, and I start teaching them how to get into the platform, into Google Classroom, how to log in for the first time, what a password is, what an email is. The beginning, in order to train them, we have like an email that everybody uses at the same time, because they need to understand what the mail is, how it works, and they need to see it because if they are very small, they are 8 years old and they don't remember a password. First of all, we start with a projected email and password. When they get acquainted with the format, they start get it into the platform with no problem. They understand how everything works, how to find the activities, how to start working. They start bringing their own personal emails with the passwords in a copybook and they hide it. They start understanding the importance of password, how it protects their personal information. I start telling them that everything they do in that account is going to stay with them during the whole passage to high school, because the truth is that they start remembering activities, they go back to what was done before. And at the beginning, it's quite a hard task. I get exhausted because I run from one computer to the other. I tend to have 27 students, 21, 28, but then they get acquainted with the format and everything goes with the flow. But the truth is, at the beginning of the year, it is quite hard. And also, I see the difference whenever I have a new student coming from another school, because they are not acquainted with working perhaps with technology, with platforms, and well, that that gives me an idea of what the others have learned, which is common ground for me every day, because it's difficult to measure results in those ways. But that I think that having students, giving students the opportunity to connect with technology, to connect with real life tasks within the setting of a classroom, to understanding the responsibilities they have when they are online, showing respect to others, being citizens online in the same way they respect people when they are having a break. They have to respect them online, gives them the opportunity to develop those skills that are going to be useful in the future.
Right. Interesting. That's really, really good to hear. And I imagine there are quite a few kind of privacy and security precautions that you need to tell them. You talked about them, making sure that they protect their password, etc., and their username. And these are all really good skills, like the critical literacy you were talking about before, that students need to develop anyway. So it's great that you're helping them with that. But do you have any problems related to security or privacy or passwords being used by other students? And if so, how do you deal with that kind of situation?
The thing is that 2 years ago, we had a situation in which a girl forgot to log out, and some older boys in seventh form arrived and sent some messages through her account. The thing is that, as I know the times everybody comes to my class and everybody is assigned a different number according to their names on a list, I know I check the times when the message was sent, and I know the person that has been sitting there. Of course, we teach kids that they have to log out, that they have to protect their password, but it happened 2 years ago. I had a situation there in which we had a complaint from a family that a girl, some messages were sent from her account, which were not sent by her. And we had to deal with that situation, and we had to teach the person who was responsible that that behavior was not proper and shouldn't have been done. Yes, we encountered those things. Luckily, last year nothing happened. Nothing of the sort happened. But because I'm trying to be very cautious, as we have a sharing scenario, cautious when they log out. I remind them to log out. Well, it's something that they need to learn, and it's something that they acquire with practice, with having the opportunities.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Meet USA Study, your one-stop platform for guiding students through their college application journey. Access up-to-date resources on universities, programs, scholarships, and application requirements, all in one place. Get easy-to-access tools, personalised timelines, expert tips, application templates, and exclusive webinars with admissions officers to help your student stand out. Visit usastudy.co.uk or call Phil at 0800 612 8271 because every student deserves the opportunity to shine with USA Study.
Well, it sounds like that only happened 2 years ago, it sounds like it's not frequent, which is great to hear.
Yes, luckily, perhaps because it's primary school and they don't know a lot, and perhaps it's not the age where they want to play pranks on people. But I think that it's that problem is more frequent with high school students.
Great. So, Maria, what I'd like to do is to ask you about specific skills or language in use, and you can tell me perhaps some of the things that you do related to that. So, for example, if you wanted to practice speaking with technology with students, speaking and or pronunciation, how would you go about doing that? Or what would you suggest a teacher do? Or have you got a favorite lesson plan or idea or
For
activity?
instance, there is a platform which is free for teachers from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., which is called Get Epic. It's a platform where students can read books and listen to the books at the same time. It is called Get Epic, and it's free for teachers during the school hours. And it gives a lot of opportunities for students to listen and then to listen to stories. And for instance, if we think about more to give room for practice, recording audios with Vocaroo, for instance, during the pandemic, we used Vocaroo a lot to send audio message where students recorded their own audio, okay? And for instance, thinking about listening and improving pronunciation, there is a read aloud tool in Microsoft Edge called Immersive Reader, which is incredible because we also nowadays lots of students have been diagnosed with dyslexia, and we are providing a specific activities for them in order to give them opportunities to improve their reading and pronunciation skills, and we use those tools. The immersive reader within Microsoft Edge, and you can also use it in Wakelet. And also there are many different immersive readers. For instance, if we think of dogs, it has a feature in which you can dictate to what you want to write. And students use it a lot, and you dictate and it writes whatever you're saying. Perhaps it has some issues with punctuation, then you have to correct that. Those are things that we have used to train some students struggling with dyslexia, and they like them a lot, and they feel empowered by using them.
Oh, that's great. So you covered kind of listening, speaking there. What about when it comes to reading and writing? Are there any, apart from Google Docs, for example, which you've already mentioned, are there any other tools that you think are useful when it comes to those skills?
For reading and writing, of course, we teach them how to use the different correctors that the tools have online in order to improve grammar, to improve the appearance of spelling mistakes. We use that a lot, okay? And there are many other tools that perhaps are not coming to mind now that I have been using with days. There's lots of practice, for instance, for Cambridge examinations provided by Cambridge, even in Kahoot. There are some official Kahoots in order to practice for Cambridge international exams. Okay, so we, depending on the topic, depending on the need, we look for material in order to make our classes more meaningful for students.
And in general, do you have any other sort of tools that you think are wonderful that teachers might like to know about? Any tools or any ideas for how to use technology in the classroom that you always go back to?
For instance, I use a lot Wakelet. It is called
Hmm.
Wakelet, a lot to curate my content, to organize my content in different ways, in different categories. Canva this day has been great because we're using artificial intelligence to create images, to illustrate projects that students have written. For instance, the big ones have created stories for little ones, and they have used the artificial intelligence tool in Canva in order to illustrate those stories. That's something I truly enjoy. We enjoy games in Kahoot, quizzes, and also with the older students, they have been working on creating tests. Students were creating tests using Google Forms in order to understand how to use them, to use, um, oh, I'm sorry, that tool.
Right, interesting. And you mentioned artificial intelligence, which of course has become you know more and more used by teachers and students these days. What about the age group that you teach? Is artificial intelligence used by them? Have they been exposed to it? I mean, apart from what you said about Canva, is it something that they are using more and more now?
I'm not using it a lot. I have exposed them to ask the tool questions about to pretend that that the artificial intelligence tool is a famous person in history, and we have been asking questions to interview that person in history. But what we have used a lot is the image creation tool. I have
Hmm.
explored a lot of intelligence tools to create images online, but the only one I felt safe about to bring it to the classroom was the one within Canva, because the pictures I got from the others were not good for school. So I didn't choose them. I didn't choose those tools. I
Well,
stayed with Canva because that was appropriate for school.
yeah. What were the other tools that you tried out that you decided were not appropriate?
I tried Perplexity, but the images I got, I think, were not good for classroom use. And we
Right.
need to be very careful with it. So it's the same that happens whenever you have to choose a book to bring to the classroom. You have to read it before and have to check that the topics are appropriate for the age group, for everything.
Of course. And what about things like students using AI to complete assessments, assignments, work that
It,
is that
it
something
has
that you've
happened.
seen happening?
Yeah, it has happened at school, and the teacher who was involved had to tackle it by telling them that, come on, you did not write this. But that's the truth, that the appearance of this technology brings new insight for teachers. Some things that were common ground to be using as homework shouldn't be used anymore, because students can do that with artificial intelligence. I think that students have to rethink the task we give students within homework practice, and they have to be different. They have to be done in a different way, because if you are asking a student something that can be done with artificial intelligence, there's no use for homework. But that's quite a controversial issue, because we haven't been taught as teachers how to tackle that. We have to sit down and discuss, because what was a common practice in the past is not needed anymore, because there's going to be one day in which all students will want to carry out activities with artificial intelligence. We have to rethink our activities in the classroom. That's the truth.
And do you think that day will come soon, or do we have a few years left before we have to worry
No,
a lot
it's
about that?
we are approaching it, because we are approaching it. That, and it's a problem for English teachers, because we are used to teaching. For instance, when we teach students for different international exams, we teach writing, and we are very specific, step by step, paragraph through paragraph, and that is done in the classroom. But sometimes we tend to ask students for a report as a homework. And the truth is that now that report can be done with artificial intelligence. But the truth is that when the day of exam comes, that the student will have to go and sit down, that exam is not going to have artificial intelligence. So that's quite a controversial issue, because we are losing the opportunity in which students practice at home, but at the same time, we have in front of us a wonderful tool that students need to understand how to use in a meaningful way, in a profitable way, but we also need to teach them how to develop writing, how to develop thinking. So that's quite a topic for teachers that we are encountering nowadays, that I guess that nobody has an answer. It's something that we should be working on together. And I think it has to do with ethics, with telling kids what they need, that writing and speaking, it's a process, a mental process that they need to develop, that it's not that you ask for something and you get an excellent answer, but they need to experiment the process and to improve little by little in order to have an excellent outcome. I think that artificial intelligence has the generative tools that provide text and writings, have brought us new topics for debate. We need to find new ways, but I think that nobody has an answer. We need to watch webinars, read more about it, and find new ways. And assessment, it's quite at, at stake these days due to that.
Yes, I think it's similar to when I was at school, the calculator, the electronic calculator first appeared, and it started appearing in classrooms, and there was a lot of discussion and debate about how it was going to be terrible because people wouldn't learn how to use maths, etc. In the end, I think it was the case that it's so important that that learners do get exposed to how to do things without a calculator, for example. But then in the real world, most people will go to a calculator to to do maths, etc. But it's important to be able to know enough to check the results, to be able to do it without, if you're without a calculator, etc. I perhaps see the same thing developing with AI, because I think now in the world of work, certainly there are people here in Mexico that I know, friends, etc., colleagues, that they go to now, especially because when their first language isn't English, for example, if they need to write a report or do something in English, then it's very tempting to go straight to one of these generative AI tools and get something produced. But as you say, it's something that then needs to be edited, etc. And also there's still a great need for, even if that is going to be the case, that most people will go and use these tools to do most of their writing that they need to do, there's still a need to be able to understand, edit, reflect on what's written, whether it's right, etc., isn't there? I don't know what you think about that.
Yes, I agree, because last year I carried out a teacher training for teachers at school on artificial intelligence. Of course, we went through the theory and all that, and then the time came to practice with it. And in the course, there were teachers from different subjects. So they started to ask AI about their topics. And the thing is that whenever you got deeper into a topic, or you got, for instance, tango, there was a teacher asking questions about tango to the artificial intelligence tool, it made lots of mistakes, because the tool will give you an answer, but sometimes it invents the answer whenever it hasn't been taught about that topic. And that's something that we have to expose the students with, the fact that the artificial intelligence tools makes mistakes, because they have been taught lots of knowledge on lots of areas. But whenever you get to a topic that the artificial intelligence has not been fed with, it makes a mistake. And if you are an expert on the area, you discover it. That's something that happened. That's why I was mentioning ethics and being critical, that you don't have to, okay, I got this from the tool, I got this report, and that's okay. I need to double check everything. That's a skill that needs to be taught these days.
Yes, definitely. I completely agree. And when you talk to students about AI, how do they react? What kind of things do they say? What do they think is going to happen? Or are they excited by it? Are they worried about it? I know a lot of teachers are worried about the impact of AI, particularly language teachers, English language teachers, that I know. A lot of them think that AI is something that is going to cause a lot of disruption in the profession, in the way that teaching and learning happens in the future. What about the students? When you talk to them about artificial intelligence, what do they have to say about it?
They like it, they enjoy it, but the thing is that they are not critical about it. They tend to believe the results 100%. And I think that's where the role of the teacher is key, to help them become critical about it, because they tend to believe everything that is given by the tool. And the truth is that we all know that it makes lots of mistakes. So that's what we have to teach them, to be critical, to double check facts. Because as I've been practicing with it and using it, I discovered that it makes mistakes, because it tends to invent whenever it has no knowledge on a matter. So I think that the students get happy about it. Some of them think that they will solve everything with the tool, but they are not critical. They tend to believe 100% to what it says. And I tell them that they have to resort to books too, resort to pages that are from books, from museums, from foundations. So that's quite a topic that it's true what you're mentioning, that teachers are worried because I think we have to teach them, students, how to use it, to include it in the process of our classes. But we have to make an effort to make students forget about it as a final result tool, because the final result, of course, it is going to be perfect. Whatever the tool writes, it's going to be wonderful. But students need to go through a process, a learning process, in which they develop the language, they improve vocabulary. And that's a process that takes place in the mind, and it requires practice. That's what worries teachers of English, I guess.
Yes, definitely. All very interesting. So, Maria, I'm going to draw things to a close now. I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the show and for sharing all of your ideas, etc. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you thought we might talk about before we leave?
No, I think it's okay. We have covered everything. I think perhaps that as a teacher, that where I'm using technology to develop lifelong learners, to develop the lab for the language, the lab for learning anything that may interest them. That's like the key I have in the classroom. That's my main goal, okay? To understand their environments, to give them tools to be better in the future, to give them tools to never stop learning.
Fantastic. That's a good point to end on. So thank you very much, Maria, for joining me.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and goodbye. See you online.
Thank you, Maria. And thank you to all of you who have joined me and Maria listening in live, in particular to Chris Fry from Barcelona. Hi, Chris. Hope you're well. Thanks for all the questions and comments in the classroom. In the chat room. I'd just like to mention a couple of them. I think Chris is recommending a couple of tools that I think are really interesting for teachers. One of them is turboscribe.ai. Particularly for the language classes, and also languagetools.org, which he says have been very useful for him when he was studying Catalan. Chris also mentioning, related to AI, that a lot of the software now that has been around for a while now has artificial intelligence in it, including even Microsoft Paint, believe it or not, which is interesting, isn't it? And again, Chris said he would like to see how practical it would be to ask students to write something by hand and get Gen AI to provide feedback afterwards based on a photo of the writing. I think that's a really interesting idea, Chris. I'd love to hear more about this if you end up trying that out. And so we did, Maria and I did talk about a lot more than just classroom management and technology. Our conversation covered all sorts of things, really. So what I would like to do in the time that is left, 10 minutes or so, is just talk a little bit more specifically about if technology can help the teacher with classroom management. And if so, then how? So from my own experience, and also from what I've read, I think it's true that there is a role for technology in classroom management, although it's definitely worth saying that classroom management is such a complex issue, which involves so many different factors, that technology in most cases perhaps only plays a minor role in this aspect of teaching. Unless, of course, you're teaching online, in which case it's definitely a major part of the picture. And here are some ideas of how I think technology can assist a teacher with classroom management. So first of all, multimedia. I think engaging students is definitely an important part of classroom management, and any type of multimedia can be used in lessons to engage the students. Technology can definitely help with motivation. As my conversation with Maria showed, I think it's important that whatever you do in the classroom is relevant to the real world, especially to the world of your students and the people that they are going to become or the people that they are, whether that be the world of work or of university or whatever. And using multimedia, video, songs, audio, etc., and computer applications can definitely help with this. Then, of course, there is managing misuse. And again, this came out in the conversation I had with Maria. Some teachers face challenges with the misuse of technology by students. So clear rules and procedures regarding the use of equipment, software, computers, technology, when they're on the internet, etc., are definitely needed to help mitigate these problems. This is more about how you manage the classroom if you're using technology rather than how technology can help you manage the classroom, of course. Another aspect Maria touched upon was using technology to build relationships. And social media can be a very useful tool for teachers to develop relationships with students. Then, of course, the use of a platform to build relationships between students and with parents, which we touched upon. This can help teachers with knowledge sharing and professional development as well. Data collection is an interesting aspect of technology in classroom management. Technology can facilitate the collection and use of data to monitor students' behavior, which then can be used to modify classroom management procedures as needed. And there are lots of tools that can help with this. One that I have used is called Class Dojo, which is a very popular classroom management, behavior management tool. In particular, it's interesting to use with primary students. It's a lot of fun as well. It gamifies behavior, allows to set up all sorts of badges, and can be used to give rewards for achievements, etc., to students. And using it in the classroom is also very easy. It's very easy to have it on in the background to use. It's very unobtrusive, and it can provide, I think, which is really interesting, reports per class and per student over time that you can use with parents or just with yourself to see how different activities in the classroom worked. With Maria, we also talked about what you would do in the classroom with students. How the work that you do in the classroom with students can be captured, students' work, for example, which then, if it is put on the platform, it can be shared. It can be used as a record, both for the teacher's benefit, for parents' benefit to see what the students are doing, and also for the students' benefit. And Maria mentioned that some of her students had gone back and looked at what had been done previously. There's all sorts of things you can do with that, which can help learning, but also things like learning portfolios. So you can showcase students' work. Students can see how they much better. They can see how they've improved over time. That can happen, of course, with notebooks, but I think it's a lot easier to manage, and a lot more can be done with it if it's digital, for example, and to see the evidence of improvement. Access to information, of course. The internet can be a resource for teachers to find classroom management tips or to help students make connections, reinforce what they know, or clarify misconceptions. And I think it's important to note at this point that while technology can be a useful tool, effective classroom management is about so much more than just using technology, of course. And it includes planning. Clear and deep lesson planning is key to managing a class, especially a large one. And this includes making decisions about learning groupings, teacher involvement, furniture positioning, instructions, and timing that technology can't really help with. However, what ways can technology be used for planning? Well, many teachers are now using generative AI to plan lessons and to get hold of supplementary material. So it's definitely something that can be in the picture. The environment, of course, is also important. Creating a conducive learning environment is essential to classroom management, and this involves considering the physical environment of the classroom, including sight, sound, comfort, seating arrangements, but also the atmosphere, how the classroom students' attitudes and emotions are, and the social dynamics of the whole learning experience. It goes without saying, of course, that teachers' skills are vital when it comes to classroom management. The skills involved are so complex, aren't they? They include establishing rules and routines, setting clear expectations for behaviour, monitoring students, enforcing the rules consistently, and motivating the students, keeping them on track and keeping them on task. And teachers also need to develop skills to manage student behaviour, build relationships with the students. Technology can help with after-class access to students, as we talked about before with the platform. Well, this is just the means of managing this. The hard part and effort is down to you.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Meet USA Study, your one-stop platform for guiding students through their college application journey. Access up-to-date resources on universities, programs, scholarships, and application requirements, all in one place. Get easy-to-access tools, personalised timelines, expert tips, application templates, and exclusive webinars with admissions officers to help your student stand out. Visit usastudy.co.uk or call Phil at 0800 612 8271 because every student deserves the opportunity to shine with USA Study.
Flexibility, of course, is also very important. Teachers need to be flexible and adaptable to modify their teaching tactics based on students' feedback and assessment data. And a strategy that works with one group of students may not work with another, as we all know. So teachers need a variety of tools for the context. Technology may have a role to play here. What about the classroom arrangement? The physical arrangement of the classroom and the layout can affect how teachers communicate with students and how students interact with each other. And also, it can affect positively or negatively the student engagement. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're teaching partly or fully online, then this is vital to get those elements right. How the online classroom space looks, making sure students are familiar with it, that you, the teacher, are familiar with different elements and tools and what you can and can't do. Breakout rooms, for example, for pair work and group work, making sure you're comfortable with monitoring students when using this technology, etc. When it comes to monitoring, moving around the physical classroom, of course, and being at the student's eye level is very important if you want to provide feedback and monitor students' engagement. Technology, I don't think, can really help with this in a physical classroom space, although one thing I have done before is I've used voice recorders as a language teacher, of course, with groups of students on different tables to capture their conversations. Now, obviously, if you're going to do this, to listen back to all of the group conversations would take a lot of time. But you don't have to always do this. I found the presence of a recording device can often make the students speak better and spend more attention and have a greater effort because of the very fact that they're being recorded. And this is the wonderful thing about recording. It feels more important if you're doing this. But if you are doing this, then please be sure to get the relevant permissions from parents and make sure that the students themselves are okay about it. And I think you also need from time to time to actually use the recordings in some way, or the effect of recording will quickly be lost if students don't think that you're actually listening back to them or doing anything with them. What else? Discipline. Discipline is an important part of classroom management, and this includes how teachers respond to students' misbehaviour As we all know, positive reinforcement and encouraging self-control are more effective than punishment. And that's where gamification, as I mentioned before, can help. And the technology can make it easier to introduce these aspects into the classroom. Student involvement, allowing students to have a role in the classroom activities and projects, can also, of course, increase their sense of ownership and responsibility. Getting feedback from students is so important, and using something like Google Forms or other surveys at the end of the class or after class or through the platform is an effective way of implementing technology to be able to involve students and get feedback from them. And then, of course, as a teacher, we all know how important professional development is. I'm sure I don't need to stress that. Anyone listening to Teachers Talk Radio is going to know that. That's why you're doing it. Ongoing professional development in classroom management in particular, I think, is essential for all teachers. Even if you're not new to the profession, I think there's always something you can learn. And this training should definitely cover a comprehensive approach to classroom management, not just discrete skills. I also think it's worthwhile thinking about your own context, the technology that you have in the classroom and how you might make use of it to help with classroom management. But also, if you are using technology, then managing it is so important, making sure that you integrate it well and think about how you are managing it. There's nothing worse than wasting time in the classroom for a page to load on a browser, for example, or so trying to have it already loaded before class. Little things like this, I think, can help with classroom management of technology and making sure that you keep the students engaged and don't lose their attention. As we all know, once you lose the students' attention, then often it's very hard to get that back. So in summary, while technology offers useful tools for teachers in the classroom, it is just one aspect, of course, of effective classroom management. A teacher's skills, planning, and the classroom environment are equally, if not more, critical for effective teaching and learning. And that brings me to the end of the show. Thank you so much to today's guest, Maria de los Angeles Suarez from Argentina, and all of you joining us live. Thank you in particular to Chris Fye for the questions and comments. Chris, as usual, it's been a pleasure to have you along. Thank you also to all of you who are listening back to the recording. And so that is it from me for this week. There are Teachers Talk radio shows all week on all manner of interesting topics. So please listen in live or back to the recordings. And I hope you will join me again next week at the same time. Bye for now.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.